Welcome to the Good Old Football Podcast. I'm Matt Edwards, back for the first time in, let's see here, more than 14 days, whenever we recorded before the Super Bowl. And if you were hanging out with me on Twitter, you saw that I got this thing that doctors refer to as coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard of this or not. I came down with that, so I was out of commission pretty much all last week. I'm going to try to get through this one. I'm good now. I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon. I am free to be about the earth as of Friday night / Saturday morning. So yeah, I'm good in that regard. I still can't go up the stairs without getting a little bit out of breath. So I should probably try to take this podcast slow. If you listen, you know I tend to get fired up a little bit. I'll talk more about COVID at the end if you're interested in that. But for now, let's stick to what this is about. This is about football, and I'm going to try to do this without getting too fired up. This is the first podcast since the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. 31-9. And something I saw during the game and immediately after the game is this mentality of people where, and it came from mostly Chiefs fans or the Mahomes stands that are out there, they cannot just take a loss. They cannot just say, yeah, they went out there and got their asses kicked up and down the field. They have to find something to blame, and of course, in this situation, they want to blame the refs. They want to blame all the penalties in the secondary. Do you think maybe there were a lot of penalties in the secondary because Tampa has undoubtedly the best receiving trio in football? You know, the whole reason Tom Brady went there to begin with. Do you think maybe that's why the Chiefs secondary had to grip and tug and rip at those guys all game? This is a problem in our society at large now where people just cannot accept failure and defeat. By the way, COVID brain's real. I feel like every word coming out of my mouth, I'm struggling. People cannot just accept that they lost. You got beat. Get over it. It happens. Don't blame the refs. You are such a loser. I guarantee you anyone who's actually blaming the refs has never really accomplished anything in life because at every point they've failed, they've just come up with an excuse. Stop doing that. Now, the Saints 3 years ago in the 2018 NFC Championship game, they had a great reason to blame the refs. That one we get. But when you get beat by 22 points and your offense doesn't score a touchdown, you're a loser. Now, there are reasons if you want to say, man, if we'd have had our starting left and right tackles, could have been a different ball game. That's fair. That's a good reason. You cannot say we would have won if we had those two players. I mean, you were playing Tom Brady and the Bucs. It's not like the Chiefs got beat by the Jets or the Jaguars or the Bengals. You got beat by the team that went on the road and won 3 straight playoff games, 2 of which were against Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. And then again, you go and you beat Patrick Mahomes. Finally, you get yourself a home game. And I think Mahomes, I'm going to go out on a limb and say being Canton one day as well. Quit blaming. Just get this enough with the excuses. It drives me insane. And I kind of realized that toward the end of the game. It's something you see throughout life. People just always have an excuse. Stop it. I think when I'm a parent, I don't have kids, but when I do, if my kid were to say, if I say, hey, why didn't you clean your room? And he just says, I didn't want to, I'll be like, all right, he or she. I'll be like, all right, that's not cool, but I would rather them do that than come up with, well, Jimmy, whatever excuse you want to come up with in your mind. Just be honest. Just say that you were outplayed, that you didn't want to do something. It drives me crazy. Saw a little bit of that in a certain election too, huh? Not just a loss. Get over it. You know what? I love that I can get all this energy. I was thinking about this. I was watching the show Yellowstone. I've been watching it. It's great. It's right up there. I think it's probably, I'm through 2 seasons. I think there's only 3 out right now. I think it's probably, I like it more than I like Breaking Bad. And it's definitely right up there with True Detective Season 1, which I think is as good as any television ever made. But in that show, they talk a lot about their enemies, which had me thinking to myself, I don't really have any enemies. I don't have any people I hate. There's no one There's some people I really don't like and I'd rather not hang out with, but I still tolerate. There's no one I genuinely hate, and I was trying to think to myself, like, who do I dislike the most? And on several occasions, football players came to mind, which just goes to show, I think it's healthy to get all this, this is why I like football. You got to get a little crazy sometimes, like I just did 20 seconds ago, talking about quit blaming the refs, grow up. It feels good. It's therapeutic to be able to get a little anger out, but not in like a way where anyone gets hurt in the process. I don't know. Maybe I'm a crazy person. Maybe the COVID has made me go insane. By the way, this is my other big topic I wanted to hit on here. We always love in the NFL to say that teams are unstoppable. And not just about always, they end up being stoppable. Going into this last season, everyone was like, well, I don't know how you're going to stop Lamar Jackson. He's just too good. Bills held him to 3 points in 3 quarters. The Chiefs this year, they had one stumble against the Raiders. Everyone wanted to say, I don't know how you're going to stop them. I just don't know how you're going to do it. They just got stopped. They scored 9 points. They have got a legendary offense. They scored 9 points. Tom Brady's got the kryptonite, sure, but even he went 9 straight seasons without a Super Bowl win, including the 2007 team, which is the most unstoppable I have ever seen, and they lost in the Super Bowl. It's what I love about the NFL. Everyone's got it figured out until they don't. Things turn around quickly in the NFL. That's what makes it so fun. That's why I quit watching the NBA over the last 5 years. You know that it's going to be one of like 5 teams that's going to win the NBA Finals. Baseball has even got a little bit of fun. There's always one team that gets hot in baseball. It was the Rays this year. They went to the World Series and lost to the Dodgers. But I love that about baseball. There's always a team that's going to get hot and win like 21 out of 27 and make a run at the playoffs. And the Rays, I think, have done that twice in my lifetime now, where they've just got hot. We saw that with the Colorado Rockies, I think, back in 2007, where they might have won like 30 games in a row. Am I making that up? I could be, whatever. But things can turn around quickly in the NFL, unlike any other sport. In the NBA, you can take 5 teams right now, and I don't know who they are because I've watched one NBA game all season. You can take 5 teams right now, though, and say one of these 5 will win the championship this year, and anyone who pays attention to the league is going to get that right 99% of the time. Give them a pool of 5, and they will tell you who it's going to be. NFL is different. Things turn on a dime. You look at the Houston Texans, who I have just, for whatever reason, really enjoyed watching them burn themselves to the ground over the past couple months. But if you recall, I think it was January 13th of 2020, so right before the world stopped turning, we saw the Texans with a 24-point lead in Kansas City, up on the Chiefs, and had they held that lead, the Titans had already won as the 6th seed, so had they held that lead, the Texans would have hosted the AFC Championship last year. Instead, the Chiefs worked the magic that Tony Romo expected them to work on Super Bowl Sunday, but they did not. They had it that day, however. They won, and look at what has happened to the Texans since. Things have just been awful. They traded DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt's gone, Deshaun Watson wants out. They hired a coach whose name I can't remember because he was a wide receivers coach for the... Is that right? I've got to look that up. Was he the wide receivers coach for the Ravens? And if that's the case, who is the last Ravens wide receiver you can remember who, did anything? I mean, they've got Hollywood Brown, who's, pretty good. David Culley is the Texans head coach. And look, probably a nice guy. He was the assistant head coach and wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator. Okay, I undersold him a little bit. But before that, Buffalo Bills quarterbacks coach. Not when Jim Kelly was there, and not last year, so not during Josh Allen's ascent. And look, maybe he's great. John Harbaugh, who I wouldn't say is great, but he was, he was a special teams coordinator before he became a head coach. Things come at you fast. On the opposite end of that, you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Historically, one of the worst franchises in football, bottom third of the league. I don't think anyone will argue with that. They've got 2 Super Bowl wins this century. Only the Patriots have more. Pittsburgh's got 2, Baltimore's got 2, the Giants have 2, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Creamsicles, also have 2. Things turn on a dime. They got Tom Brady. People want to come play there. It's kind of happened with Cleveland, right? 3 years ago, 0-16. You get Baker, he's got a little bit of an attitude. You trade for Jarvis Landry. Myles Garrett works out. All of a sudden, Browns are a cool, hot team. A cool, like cool hip. Can't be cool and hot. Things turn around quickly. Everyone is unstoppable until they are not. Like I said, today is Wednesday, February 17th. Steelers general manager, hear that deep breath? Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert, he kind of danced around whether or not the team wants Ben Roethlisberger back. What do you do there, right? I'd love to see them go in the tank for about 25, 30, 40, 75 years, whatever. But for one, why isn't Ben Roethlisberger coming out and saying he was hurt last season? The dude has faked injuries his entire career. He will limp off the field with 3 trainers holding him up, come back after halftime, play the game, and then afterward be like, yeah, I just scratched my ankle. Why did you need to be carried to the locker room then, Ben? Now would be a good time to continue with what you've always done, overplaying the injury hand. Say you were hurt last year, get yourself another shot. I don't think, unless you do that, another team's certainly not taking Ben Roethlisberger on. You got to restructure your contract. No doubt about that. I think both sides are aware of that. Everyone's aware of that. But if you don't say you were injured, and it's probably too late to do that at this point, unless you just kind of leak it out there and kind of play the hand of getting it around it, no one's going to want you. You got to do that. Because right now, and I don't think Big Ben would play for another team anyways. Maybe if the Colts, given how good their roster is outside of the quarterback position, they play indoors, that'd probably help him. But, it's one of the more interesting things, a topic of discussion that, if you can't tell, I'm not terribly prepared to talk about, but I don't get what his game plan. He kind of, he sit there on the bench and he cried. Come up with a plan, guy. It's not that hard to do. You've got the clout. So we'll see what happens with Big Ben and the Steelers. What are their other options? Because every quarterback they've drafted since Ben has been terrible. And I also think during that press conference they kind of came out and said, well, he Mason Rudolph played well there. It's like, good luck with that. Go ahead. Let that one happen. Do I have time? I was talking about Trevor Lawrence with my friends Tim and Greg. We're at 13 minutes, so we'll save that for another time. I'm excited. Trevor Lawrence is an exciting guy for me. I think he's got. I'm going to go out on a limb again. He's got potential. All right, COVID-19. Here's what happened. I'll try to keep this quick. Let's see. We are at 13 minutes and 30 seconds right now. So on Tuesday, it would have been the Tuesday before the Super Bowl. So February 2nd, I didn't know this was a symptom. That's when I had my first symptoms. I had between my shoulder blades and my neck a throbbing pain like you wouldn't believe. I thought that I had hurt myself working out. I had started doing some kettlebell workouts the day before that, so I thought I must have messed something up. But I did think it was weird because when I was doing them, I never actually hurt myself. Like as I was doing them, I never felt any pain, at least outside of your normal workout stuff. But I thought maybe I did something and slept on it wrong. I mean, it was killing me. Just throbbing. I couldn't get comfortable no matter what. Little did I know that some people experience that. Thankfully, I was talked about this a little bit. My friend Bill R., who is a listener of the show, he also experienced the same thing. He was also going through COVID, and he had the same issue. So the next day, Wednesday, I'm coughing a lot. But Tuesday night, I was very stuffed up. I have a lot of allergies. I put an Afrin up my nose, more than you want to know. That nasal spray, and that always irritates my throat a little bit, so I thought I'm just coughing because of that. And then the real kicker, Wednesday night, I go to make myself a big old pot of chili, and I'm cutting up that onion, and I realize I am usually fighting back tears when I cut up onions, and I cannot smell a damn thing. So right then, I kind of knew this is not good. Went and got a test the next day, of course, tested positive, and for about the next 5 days, really, Wednesday and Thursday weren't too terrible. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday sucked. Just zero energy. I described it to someone, I've described it to a lot of people. Imagine being very hungover and having a cold at the same time, and then in my case, do that for about 7 or 8 days in a row. That's what it felt like. There was just zero energy. I'm still getting out of breath doing fairly simple things, although that comes and goes. I went and played outside yesterday and was fine, but then walking up the steps at night, I get winded, and it sucked. It was worse than I thought it would be. The whole mild symptoms thing, I mean, look, I can't complain because so many people have lost their lives and have incredible medical bills due to this. So I'm in the clear now, but man, it was worse than I would have expected. Just to be sitting there on the couch and run out of breath for no apparent reason, not cool. Not cool at all, but I made it, and thanks to everyone who reached out. I do appreciate that. Sorry I had to take a week off. The Super Bowl week, your two favorite broadcasters, myself and Colin Cowherd, neither one of us could come on air after the Super Bowl. Of course, he had a blood clot in his lung, a little bit more serious. Best of luck to the great one, who I think listens to this podcast also. All right, I am on Twitter at Matt Edwards. If you want to hang out there, shoot me a note, whatever you want to do. I hope everyone is doing great and enjoying all this snow that we got across the country over the past few days. If you like the podcast, tell a friend. Tell them to quit being a loser and quit blaming refs for things that they shouldn't be blamed for. I hate the refs as much as anyone, but when you get beat by 22 points, it's no one's fault but your own. All right, it's a good old football podcast. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.